Hi, I'm Kirby James from the GYST Method, and with me today is...
Nicole Gerard, also from the GYST Method.
And today we want to pick up on something that really is one of the most topical things you can hear about anywhere, anytime.
Any industry, any role, any city, any town, any country, any place. It seems. It's everywhere.
And what was fascinating to me was actually a posting in the newspaper, local newspaper called Halton News. And the cops were sitting at an intersection behind this white SUV.
Okay, I'm not sure where this is going, so let's listen.
The light turns green, and the SUV doesn't move, with a cop car behind it. 3 seconds, 9 seconds, 11 seconds. The car doesn't move. The cops are just sitting there. And then the car takes off like a shot. How often have you seen that? And the cops catch up, and one of the police officers in the passenger seat pulls out his cell phone and takes a picture, and the person's still on their phone.
No.
And when the person got pulled over, it's just like, oh, I'm sorry, I got so much on the go, blah, 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 blah. And nothing but excuses about how overwhelmed they are in life.
That's so dangerous. Super interesting, because that ties into what we're talking about, is the bad decisions you make when you're convinced that you're overwhelmed.
So I want to talk about this because to me this is one of the absolute crises we have. We've got an environmental crisis. We have all kinds of crises going on in the world. This one, though, to me, has the potential to be one of the most cancerous. Giving a presentation to a group of CEOs recently on resilience. It's related to the webinar we have on our website. And I got to this issue of like, what's one of your biggest challenges in terms of your workforce? And this was one of the top things that CEOs would say. People are overwhelmed.
Yeah.
People are overwhelmed. They don't know what to do. They're constantly multitasking. And quite frankly, everything's being done badly. And it's this whole issue of being overwhelmed. And I've got something, this is busting out of me, not like aliens, but it's just wanting to come out, and I want to share it. To me, being overwhelmed comes back to a couple of things. Number one is your own mental discipline. Mm-hmm. Your ability to compartmentalize and prioritize the way you approach life.
In a healthy way.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Anything can be to an extreme.
Yes, we don't want avoidance and denial and all the other wonderful things.
Yeah, and prioritization based on like the most base of things as opposed to what really matters in life. That's not what I'm talking about. Yeah. So on the one hand, it comes from that. But on the other hand, to me, it actually is a framing issue. And I want to give credit to Robert Fritz for this language. When you use no filters to see life, when everything is potentially urgent, when nothing can be said no to, you'll be overwhelmed.
Of course.
It's inevitable. There's just so much going on in life that how you could ever possibly process that much. Maybe one day in the future we'll be able to do that as we evolve. I don't know. Right here, right now, you need to take control over the way you see the world.
Yeah, and I think that's true in obviously our professional lives, but our personal lives as well. And I think when you don't have healthy boundaries everywhere, consistent healthy boundaries, then that's when you start to see individuals that are saying things like, you know, I'm overwhelmed at home, I have so much on the go, and the kids, and what I need to do, and then there's work, and then there's like...
There's no time for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they also start like the language, and you can see I'm kind of doing it on purpose. It's the stuttering, and they're jumping from one, and their thoughts are racing so fast.
It's like they're having an epileptic seizure with the amount of stuff that's jittering.
I just want to say to them...
Breathe.
Okay. Yes. And you actually mentioned this in a conversation we had before when it comes to that feeling of overwhelm. Like we can talk about some of the tactical things that you can do to reduce overwhelm, but a physical step you can take to sort of bring the anxiety down. And a lot of people are aware of this, but don't put it into practice. Just take a breath.
Well, in the resilience workshop that I did with the HR community for Toronto, this actually came up as one of the questions at the end, was more about personal anxiety and that feeling of overwhelm. And as we got talking about it, it was amazing to me that stuff that we teach in martial arts that is as ancient as the ancient studies of China and the Orient. It's true. Mm-hmm. Learn the discipline to take a breath that is a cleansing, relaxing breath to give yourself a chance.
Yeah.
The physiology of this is really interesting. It has to do with actually the way your brain's structured. And when you're in that constant kind of mode, mm-hmm. The thinking part of your brain is relentlessly trying to play catch up.
Yeah.
Part of this is real estate. My undergrad degree in neurosciences taught me this, which is it's just farther from where all the data comes in from your senses. It's just farther to go from where the stuff comes in to get out to the front of your head, and it's far.
What do you mean by far? What's farther?
In time, it takes 23 times longer mm-hmm. for the signal to get to and be processed by your prefrontal cortex than it does to run around in your fear, fight, or flight segment.
Okay, so practical example. I'm just leaving work. I've got 20 things I have on my list that I didn't get done today. Yep. I'm now driving through traffic. People are driving really well. I'm trying to get to the kids to pick them up on time because I have to go bring them to Taekwondo.
Yeah.
I'm freaking. So what you're saying is when I have all of this running through my head, by the time I realize
that it's stressing you out.
That it's stressing me out, that I actually have plenty of time to do everything I need to do. The list in my head is actually, if I just take a deep breath.
Well, actually, that's true. The deep breath will help. There's something else buried in what you just said is you may actually not have time for it all. And that's
that's a different thing. That's boundaries.
Yeah, that's the reality of it, which is, and we see this with friends on Facebook in their posts. They've committed to so much and it's impossible.
Yes. And a lot of them, you'll find, are people pleasers.
Right.
Perfectionists. They want to make sure it's the perfect Christmas, it's the perfect Thanksgiving, it's the perfect piano recital, it's the perfect baptism, it's the perfect whatever. And they work themselves up
into a frenzy.
Yes.
And so I want to pick up on 2 or 3 things that you just pointed out there. So one of them, the breath, what it allows you to do is it allows actually your cortisol levels to come down a little bit. Mm-hmm. And it gives you a chance to get a little more oxygen up to the thinking part of your brain so you can actually get in the game. The other thing it's going to do is make the rest of us on the road where you drive safer because you're actually thinking about driving. Because if you don't get there safely, the rest of it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2 is the issue about boundaries. And where this comes from is, again, breathing and understanding your priorities and what matters most. Somebody asked me to go do this in the evening, and I'm looking at it, it's like, I cook the meals in my house. It's like, let's see. I've got this to do, I've got that to do, I've got this to do, I've got that to do. Yep, no, sorry.
Yeah.
That's it. And I mean sorry, meaning, sorry, I'd love to.
However.
And, no, it's not a but or a however. And I'm saying no because that doesn't fit my construct.
So let's just take this back a step then. I think this is actually the most important part of the entire conversation around the feeling of overwhelm. And it does come back to the boundaries you set for yourself, sticking to them.
Right.
And being comfortable with the decision.
That's absolute bedrock. And so how can you be comfortable in that decision?
Precisely.
And the way you can be comfortable in that decision is you actually understand yourself well enough to understand what matters most to you, what your values are, and from that, it actually gets simpler.
Yes.
Way simpler.
I'll give you a real life personal example. So back in the day when I was still working in corporate, one thing that stressed me out a lot around the holidays is around the middle of November until the middle of January, there's a holiday party every week. There's drinks after work, let's get together, there's the gift exchanges, there's the friends and family parties that happen. Everything at the end of the year, on top of it being the holidays, on top of people trying to go away, on top of the weather where we are in Canada, there's snow, used to stress me out.
Yep.
So I made a decision many years ago. The only holiday activities I will attend, commit to, or go to are the family dinners. So Christmas Eve, Boxing Day, like whatever the family, I didn't do any more corporate parties. Friends and family, love you so much. We'll do it at another time. Like, just because I don't come to your house on a Thursday night after I've had a 12-hour day to have a hot toddy to celebrate the holidays doesn't mean I love you any less as a friend or colleague. Right. I cut out all of the holiday extra. And my stress level at that time of the year immediately went down. Friends and family, I would just say, oh, I'm double booked. I can't. Sorry. Thank you so much for the invitation. Not coming. And reduced all of the stress around the holidays for myself. And it was a game changer at that time of year because I didn't come back to work feeling like I need another vacation.
There's a flip side to this, and it speaks to the ideal, especially around holidays. In the States, I think it's more around Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Canada, it's more around Christmas, but it can be about anything, anywhere. It can be a graduation, a birthday. It can be around anything, where people will start to fantasize. This isn't imagining, and this isn't trying to bring into creation always. A lot of it is fantasy about the perfection they want to achieve. Now, that you want to throw a great party for someone important in your life and you want to help celebrate it all, that's great. Working within the realm of reality is what matters.
Yes.
And you're never going to realize the perfection of your vision. However, and I'm a complete supporter of attempting to have it, but as reality and this ideal perfection don't align is where I actually see a lot of damage, particularly around the holidays. I watch it with my own mom. I've seen it in other people where the weight on their heart that it wasn't emerging, literally resulting, and I've seen this, and I won't mention who, where in the process of cracking eggs to make something for a meal, one egg tumbled out of the carton and cracked, and it ended up in hysterical sobbing.
Of course.
Because they were overwhelmed. And when you really dig into it, the overwhelming is the creation of attention that what's really going on isn't reconciling with this fantasy, and the consequence is complete breakdown.
And you find that as well in the professional setting.
Absolutely.
Oftentimes, this is the individual, and now this is the responsibility of that individual, but the organization as well. Because sometimes an individual, depending on their orientation, if they're a people pleaser, they're a perfectionist, they sometimes can't help themselves, which is where I do think organizations can assist. However...
Oh, particularly in the mental health realm.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Completely am aligned with the clinical side of that.
Of course. But the behaviors that you see for individuals that you see things like burnout, overwhelm, overstressed, it's the individuals that are sending emails at 11 o'clock at night. They are taking calls on a weekend. They go on vacation, but they're still available. They're still in Slack. They're still in Jabber. You can still text them. It's the individuals that never turn off. Yeah. And you can see that they're not turning off because they have this overwhelming sense that there's so much to do. I just need to make it perfect. I just need to make sure everything's cleaned up. I just. And it becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy. You're overwhelmed because you're going without any boundaries.
And, we've seen this in the extreme. Don't know him personally. Look forward to meeting you, Elon. But Elon Musk is renowned for being like this. And even, the founder of Microsoft, Bill Gates, recently said that at the beginning of an entrepreneurial effort, don't take time off, work all the time. Yeah, to get success, it's true. I just think that there's a way to define success a little more broadly.
Yeah.
And that success can include not allowing yourself to get overwhelmed. Some people are more resilient. They're able to go like that and process
longer, but not necessarily forever.
No, never. Nobody can.
No.
And it's one of the big things, going back to the Toronto Raptors. When they acquired Kawhi Leonard, one of the big things they did, which apparently made a huge difference, was not overworking him, not overplaying him, not overexposing him to the media, not overcommitting him to things. They helped him not become overwhelmed.
Beautiful.
And now we ended up having the first ever championship in Canada. Thank you very much to Nick Nurse and the management at the Toronto Raptors.
Right, but let's pull this back for a second. So we want to talk to the individual or even the organization that is feeling overwhelmed. You know when you feel overwhelmed. It's the tired, it's the stress, I can't sleep, I can't seem to turn off my brain, I'm nervous to turn off and close my computer or put down my phone, someone might need me, something might go wrong, it's the list that never ends.
And it's quite, from my observation, it's quite tightly tied to FOMO. Right?
Oh, yes.
The fear of missing out is as if, yeah, but. So for me, that's, the yeah, but, the just but, they're always telling you, I hear you, and I'm going to ignore you.
Yeah.
Because, this thing's going crazy,
Yes,
and I can't help myself. To build on the point that you just made, though, at the individual level, this is terrible. I've experienced it myself at one point. I'm sure everybody has. At the business level, this actually feels like you're stuck in the mud, or for Canadians, we're stuck in the snow. Mm-hmm. And you're there, you're not going as fast as you want to, and so the way you're trying to get out of this is to push harder on the gas pedal,
do more,
and try to get unstuck, because that'll fix it. And I think the evidence is overwhelming that that's actually a great way to burn out everybody and not necessarily get to where you're going to. What's more likely to happen? You're going to reach a point where you just can't do it anymore. And then you'll take that step back and look at what you're doing. Mm-hmm. This is when the changes occur. The strategies change. Cuts come. Like all of
people
this.
Quit.
People quit. Like there will be these sea change events that force the business to finally say, okay, so this isn't working anymore. Yeah. And that's really, Nicole, I think where you and I have seen the most success in what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's some practical advice that we can give right now. I mean, I have one for the organization and one for the individual.
Run with it. Yeah.
So from an organizational level, everyone knows, we've all read the articles, seen the research, the statistics, that when your teams, when the sick days start to come up, when the leaves start to happen, when I have appointments 4 times a month, so like that starts to happen, something's up.
Yeah.
And instead of ignoring it, instead of thinking, oh, well, they're just not happy, we think they're looking for something else,
or putting a Band-Aid on it, like offering a bonus around your healthcare plan.
Here's another $5,000 a year, please stay.
Or, we've added massages to our benefits program.
Yeah. I mean, that's not addressing the issue. Mm-hmm. When you start to see things like that, you want to catch them quickly, and even a step before that, because what's going to happen before that is, like I said, there's the emails at 11 o'clock at night. They're not shutting down on vacation. They're always just a few minutes more, and they're the last ones sitting in the office. You need to have a conversation.
Yes.
You need to have a conversation, because if that behavior and that activity is allowed to go, they're going to burn out. You're going to lose someone good. No one can continue to do their best work when they're in that frantic state.
And look at it as if like a car engine, you're constantly running at the red line.
Yeah, you can't
it's just not going to be sustainable.
No,
so what do you have on the personal side?
On the personal side, I would say it's boundaries. And for me, that's huge, because if you don't put up boundaries, things like the extra meetings, the extra events, sometimes, you have to tell your kid it's piano or soccer. It's not both. Like, that's okay, right? It's the extra meetings that you don't have to be in 13 meetings a day. Like, you don't. There's absolutely no reason for that. So from a professional, personal side, I would say the first place to look is your calendar. I think I mentioned this in a conversation we had before. One of the first things I do when working with an executive that is coming to us because they're overwhelmed, etc., show me your calendar. Your calendar is going to show you your life. It's going to show you how you plan, how organized you are, and you can see very clearly in black and white. There's either nothing on the calendar, which means you don't know where you're going from one minute to the next, which is stressful, or it is so. I had a client recently that they had 46 meetings blocked off, recurring every week.
I'm not saying that can't happen.
No kidding, you're overwhelmed.
Not saying it can't happen, but that would be an extraordinary individual that can process that.
No, it's too much.
So I've got 2 things I want to offer, and instead of sort of on the diagnostic side, I want to talk on, so what can you do about it? And on a culture level, I actually see the intentional cultivation of resilience as something that your HR, training and development people need to collaborate with the rest of the business about, and the entire business. Sales, marketing, operations, everybody. This can't be just, oh, that's just the operations people. No, because everybody gets exposed to it. And there's ways of building up resilience, and we've got more to say about that.
Yeah.
The other one, and this applies on the personal level very much, but I believe it applies a lot to businesses, which is you may think you're good at making decisions. Most people actually aren't. And even if their decision-making process is pretty good, the backbone that they have to actually stick to the decision,
Yes.
the waste heap of humanity is full of decisions discarded.
Very nice.
Gym memberships, diet plans, okay?
Exercise equipment, collecting dust in the basement.
You know, can we go down the list?
Yeah.
And a lot of it is, was it the right decision in the first place? And then, okay, maybe it's not a bad decision, but what about the implementation side? And most people, when they make decisions, think that the process of making a decision is about the landing on the thing.
Yes.
No, that then becomes the second phase, which is, and so what are you going to do with the thing?
Yeah, and I think that's something that we should talk about in another episode.
We have so much to say about that one.
Yeah, a lot of organizations work with us specifically in the area of decision making and how to do it properly.
Absolutely.
So I think on this note, when it comes to overwhelm, I think there are quite a few things that we've left on the table that people can use to start moving past overwhelm, getting a grip on their boundaries. And in the next episode, we will dive into decision making.
I think that's the one to do, because we don't want to overwhelm you anymore. That's for my brother Greg.
Awesome. So I'm Nicole Gerard from the GYST Method.
And I'm Kirby James from the GYST Method. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys. Until next time.